Good morning, Jewel.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Having my morning coffee and thought this would be great to come together this morning um, so that we can talk about what you're going through in hopes that we can bring light to your disease, diagnosis, treatment. So, how are you feeling?
Today I
Oh,
feel good.
well, good.
And so since I'm feeling good today, I always try to do something to really boost extra my immunity and my spirits, because I notice when I'm happier, my immune system works better.
Well, that's good. Well, let's first get this out the way. We want to welcome everybody to Simply Jewel, a typical podcast here on Anchor and all the other platforms. Um, we're talking to Cindy today about uh, name your disease.
I have RA, OA, and Sjögren syndrome.
Okay, and can you tell them what the RA and the syndrome is? Start out with your RA.
I'll start out with the RA. Okay. RA stands for rheumatoid arthritis. I have severe rheumatoid arthritis. So that was my first diagnosis. My second diagnosis was my OA, and that is osteoarthritis, which has to deal with your immune system and autoimmune system.
Mhm.
And last but not least, because this disease tends to get misdiagnosed because it mimics other diseases, Sjögren syndrome, and that's spelled Sjogrenes, and it is in the lupus family.
Okay. Oh, that's something. My husband has lupus, discoid lupus, and as we know, lupus has so many different names or different kinds of lupus. So, okay. So, what's the treatment for those diseases and diagnosis?
Because of the severity of mine, I have to take methotrexate, which is chemo medicine, and I have to go into the hospital and I have to have an infusion. And that takes anywhere from, it starts out at 3 hours, and then after you've done it a while, then it takes an hour. But it's very caustic.
Yes, yes. And now let's tell me about how you're feeling today, or like before you started treatment. What were you feeling like?
Well, I was just having weird symptoms. My fine motor skills. I only had 10% of my fine motor skills, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't open anything or hold anything without it falling out of my hands. My skin, no matter what I was doing, and I was slathering on lotion and slathering on Vaseline just to try to keep my skin supple. And it seemed like whatever I did didn't work. It just dry. I was just dry, very, very dry. And then my feet felt like wood. They were hard because they were so dry. They were scaly. They've never been like that. I've always worn open-toed shoes. I can't wear open-toed shoes right now.
Oh wow. So is that from the treatment, or is that
No,
from the
that was from the disease.
Oh, okay. Okay. Go on.
And then I have one other thing that happens. So if I get too cold, for some reason my fingertips, and it's usually my index and ring finger and my middle finger. Sometimes it's all of them. The tips will turn white halfway down to about the knuckle. And it feels like a cross between frostbite and your hand being asleep. But it looks like there's no blood in it.
Well, everybody, we seem to have lost Cindy. She was actually on her way to a doctor's appointment, and we were talking about what the diagnosis was. She mentioned rheumatoid arthritis, RA, osteoarthritis, OA, and Sjögren syndrome. Then we talked about what the treatment was and how she was feeling and what she was feeling like. There are so many things about this syndrome. We just want to invite her to come back live on another episode as we're getting used to the technical difficulties and how to manipulate and how to put things in perspective, shortcuts. But I will say we are getting better. What I wanted to talk to her about was helpful hints and the treatment. Also, the fact that she mentioned when her hands get white on the tips. And I was trying to remember the name. I do believe it's Raynaud's, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. But the treatment for something like that, and it seems to be that many people have it, but there's always a name that's going to be attached to a symptom. And also, one thing I do know about Raynaud's disease is that it does affect the autoimmune system, connective tissues, and it is secondary to lupus. I do know a little bit about lupus. I know more about discoid lupus because my husband had discoid lupus, but there's systemic lupus. There's several different forms of lupus. One thing I can say is that when you have Raynaud's, lupus, pretty much any disease or been diagnosed, alcohol and caffeine is something you want to avoid. I will say that fish oil will help with that, although I myself am allergic to fish oil, so I hope that I don't have to experience Raynaud's disease. In addition to primrose oil, these are some of the things that you can use to assist with these with the Raynaud's disease. So again, we'll probably try and get her to come on one more time, or to go to YouTube, which is encompassing TV, and we can also do a live. And let's not forget the use of Patreon. I believe I'm going to offer a discount, so people that really are serious with receiving helpful hints, we can go on to Patreon and have a closed session for those who have memberships. So until next rewrap, don't forget, go to simplyjewel.com. You can visit me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and there's other social platforms. If you're serious about having a one-on-one, you can go to simplyjewel.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, just fill out an intake form, and you too can have a one-on-one relationship with me. There is a free consultation, and then we can decide which route to go. But I appreciate you listening. Thanks to all the listeners out there, and I look forward to speaking to you next Tuesday. Have a great night. Peace and blessings.